The real story of Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was an extraordinary genius, a theoretical physicist from a Jewish family. He made remarkable contributions to the study of quantum mechanics and astronomy. He was also the first person to predict the existence of black holes. To the outside world, he was always known as a German Jew, but he always tried to conceal his Jewish identity. But this changed when Hitler's rose to power and the showered terror against Jews. Oppenheimer became increasingly connected to his Jewish heritage, deeply affected by the atrocities befalling his community. Around that time, a discovery emerged, which would change the world. 3 scientists in Berlin successfully split the uranium atom. The resulting energy released from this fission was tremendous, possessing the potential to fuel a devastating bomb. This development spurred scientists globally to contemplate the possibility of creating such a weapon. Einstein feared that the Germans might become successful in making a bomb, and such a powerful weapon in the hands of Nazis was catastrophic. He wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt proposing collaboration with physicists to develop an atomic bomb. Roosevelt agreed with Einstein's advice, and development of an atomic bomb became a top priority for United States. To create the bomb, the U.S. military began recruiting scientists. While Oppenheimer was a key figure in the project, his communist affiliations made the U.S. hesitant to trust him. Oppenheimer had sympathies with the communist ideology. His brother Frank and his girlfriend Jean Tatlock were affiliated with the Communist Party of the United States. Furthermore, Oppenheimer's wife, Catherine, also was a former member of the party. Although his communist ties raised alarms, they did not prevent his appointment as the director of the Manhattan Project. He proposed the military to establish a secret city, Los Alamos, Mexico, where thousands of scientists and their families could live and work to develop the world's first atomic bomb. This ambitious endeavor took 5 years and $2 billion, walking towards an event that would change the world. On July 16, 1945, 210 miles south of Los Alamos, the first atomic bomb was successfully tested, bearing the code name Trinity. 2 months prior, the test had come the news that Hitler committed suicide and Germany surrendered, but US military continued its bomb development, suggesting that this new weapon would accelerate the end of the war. Shortly after the successful testing, on August 6 and 9, 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This heart-wrenching bombing resulted in the tragic deaths of over 200,000 people. Till this date, it remains only time when nuclear weapons were used in an armed conflict. After the bombings, Oppenheimer became famous all around the world and received the title of Father of the Atomic Bomb. He became a national spokesman for science and also appeared on the covers of Life and Time. In 1947, he accepted a job offer from Lewis Strauss, who was the chairman of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. The offer was to take up the directorship of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. However, the guilt stemming from the bombings left Oppenheimer shattered, plunging him into a deep depression.
I think when you play a meaningful part in bringing about the death of over 100,000 people and the injury of a comparable number, you naturally don't think of that as with ease.
He even confessed to President Truman during a meeting, saying, "I feel I have blood on my hands." Driven by a desire to prevent an bombs race, Oppenheimer collaborated with the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission to control the use of nuclear weapons. In 1949, President Truman proposed the development of a hydrogen bomb, but Oppenheimer opposed it. He was worried that a hydrogen bomb, with an explosive force 1,000 times greater than an atomic bomb, would be far more devastating. Despite his opposition, the U.S. successfully developed an H-bomb and tested it in 1952. Lewis Strauss was eager about the U.S. leading the bomb race. He submitted a petition to ban export of isotopes to other countries. Even for medical purposes, his aim was to prevent other countries from creating nuclear weapons. Oppenheimer was consulted on this matter, opposed with petition humorously, saying isotopes are far less important than electronic devices to create a bomb. But more important than a sandwich, Strauss was publicly humiliated. It was the start of a rivalry that would end in Oppenheimer losing his security clearance. Strauss hatched a plot for revenge. He requested FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover to investigate and build a case against Oppenheimer. Strauss also initiated a separate security proceeding within the AC, accusing Oppenheimer of being a Soviet agent and a communist. Strauss had access to the FBI's information on Oppenheimer, including the conversations with his lawyers. This was used to prepare counterarguments against those lawyers in advance. At the conclusion of the hearings, Oppenheimer's security clearance was revoked, but the drama didn't end there. As Strauss's political career grew more complex, he found himself in clashes with Senate Democrats, resulting in new enemies. In 1958, President Eisenhower nominated Strauss as Secretary of Commerce, but senators objected due to his feud with them. A Senate hearing was arranged to decide whether Strauss would assume the position of Secretary of Commerce or not. During the hearings, David Hill, a nuclear physicist who worked with Oppenheimer in the Manhattan Project and was the chairman of the Federation of American Scientists, opposed Strauss along with many other Senate members. David testified, "Most of the scientists in this country would prefer to see Mr. Strauss completely out of the government." Hill's testimony condemned Strauss's lack of integrity, persistent arrogance, and plotting a plan to revoke Oppenheimer's security clearance. Hill's testimony resulted in the Senate voting against confirming Strauss for the post. Among those who voted against Strauss were future U.S. presidents John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson. After this incident, Oppenheimer purchased a home on the beach and devoted considerable time to sailing with his daughter and his wife Kitty. He continued in delivering lectures and presentations worldwide on the history of science, the societal significance of science, and the fundamental nature of the universe. Being a chain smoker, Oppenheimer received a diagnosis of throat cancer in late 1965. On February 18, 1967, he passed away peacefully in his sleep at his Princeton residence at the age of 62. This was the fascinating story of J. Robert Oppenheimer. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to support our channel.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought